right, let's go.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to, what is it? BeoTalk 301. I
That's
nearly
it.
forgot where we were.
It's not a 300 anymore.
No, go buy some stuff at Skinny Play. I'll pop links into the chat in a mo. And, oh yeah, we're at 1,000 on the Discord, so come join the Discord.
We were at 1,000, now they left, so now we're at 999 again.
Well, then come make it 1,000 again.
That's it.
Close enough.
Bye. That's it.
Welcome, Stefan. How are you?
Hey, Stefan.
I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
Not bad. Not bad at all. But, well, shall we just address the elephant in the room?
Wait, I'm unaware. What's going on?
And talk a little bit about his troubles with the app and what recently happened with the new update of the app. He's in short, but he'll give you the long. In short, he's basically unable to use his system through iOS.
Are you on the beta or?
Nope, not on the beta. Just I got back from my long travels down in the US. Made no changes, no updates, nothing to the system. It was working initially, but about 2 weeks ago, it just stopped working. Where I couldn't, where the iOS app in both my iPad and my iPhone would lose track of the devices. It kept on asking me to reinstall the devices. It would be the theater and the emerges, and even my Bluetooth speakers. I have the A1s. It just lost them. So I would reconnect them. It would see them, say, hey, we found new devices, and I reconnect them, and it would connect them, and then it would cycle back to the original screen where you have all the advertisements, as if I hadn't logged in.
I don't think I've ever seen that screen until you showed me. I didn't know that was a thing, because that would really annoy me to see ads about the stuff I already have.
And you can't get into yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And again, it's on my iPhone and my iPad. So I then updated iOS to make sure I had the latest version. I hadn't at the time, so I updated, didn't fix it. Then I uninstalled the app, reinstalled the app, it didn't fix it. Then I did what Kareem suggested, was I shut down the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi, restarted the app, restarted the Bluetooth Wi-Fi, didn't fix it. Interestingly enough, I had an old Android device, and I opened that up, and it works fine on Android. So it seems to be an iOS thing.
That's why I don't know, because I'm Android fully. For me, what I noticed is problematic now is the sound presets or the sound options. It's looks like that sensitive area where you actually tap to touch it, and it opens the music, the speech, the blah blah blah, the night listening. You have to tap it on the bottom right corner of the icon, because if you do it on the center now, it won't work for me. And that was one of those things, like, it's frustrating when you're doing an install. It's like, I cannot get into this to show you how to use it because it just won't work. And I oddly had the same problem with the icon switching on the theater now, on the last the one that I've done.
It's stuck?
Yeah, it's stuck on silver. But I did what I saw on Discord, when you just go select the anthracite one, because that's what it was.
Yeah. And
you get out without saving, it changes it.
Yeah, but as soon as you restart the app, it's back again to silver.
Yeah, it's weird. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that are really not cool about what's happening within the app environment. The stage lost its sound presets, or whatever you would call it.
So that's why the contour also lost them.
The Beosonic, yeah, because its contour is basically just a stage with a very nice outside chassis. So yeah, there's I don't know if this was a mistake release or intentional release, but this app just totally took a dive for the worst. For me, the worst that I really disagree with is how they have now forced you to interface with Deezer, where you now only have on the splash page. If you want, let me share my screen. because I have. Yeah, let's do that. Let's start sharing this, Mikey, so you can put this in frame, whichever way works.
One moment, please.
I really like this Windows feature where you can share your Android screen directly on. So there's the living room, right? We go in, and here you could only like you have to press because it just it just wouldn't work for some reason tapping it in the center. It works on this because I'm using the mouse, but if I were to tap it, I would have to tap it down here. So that's kind of weird. But the Deezer, which I do not like, is that now you are just filled with bloatware. This is everything that I always would turn off in the settings. You know what I mean? When you go to personalization and you just uncheck all this, I don't want your recommended nonsense. But all of your stuff is now here. And what's even more frustrating now that all of your stuff is set chronologically from the oldest ever put in all the way to the newest, which is insanely long ways to scroll. And I would say about 60% of the tracks are unavailable. 40. And everything that, it's why. And it's on my Deezer. It works perfectly on my account with Deezer.
But not
all
to
of
the
these I can play.
app.
But in the BNO app, this is like, why is Eric Clapton grayed out? You know what I mean? See, some of this works, some of this doesn't. And it's exactly the same now in if you go to albums. So let's go to which one would be a good example? This. There is nothing, no content anymore. Even though I have this downloaded physically into the phone. Yeah, so it makes no sense, man. Like some of these things just did I just turn it on? I don't think so. Yeah, I did. So yeah, I don't understand why I'm missing my albums now all of a sudden as content within the app.
But do you have the regular Deezer app?
But if I go to hold on a second, how do I do that now? I think I'll have to open. Yeah, I have the regular Deezer app, so let's go to
and
all
it all
apps.
appears in there.
Yeah, it all appears in there.
Can
I actually get out of this?
Have you noticed song skipping in the app?
Yeah, for me they do.
Yeah, I get that as well.
For me they do. Sorry, it just went to shit now. I had well at home, like when I listen to it, still sometimes occasionally does reboot on a Deezer source selection or some I don't know why.
Oh, I know why.
Okay, let's go here. That's exactly what it sounds like, but I don't see much into it here. Let's okay, does that? Yeah, it still works, right? I guess you can see the screen or no?
It's just black at my end.
Switching to this. Right?
Yeah.
Does that show? So here I go to favorites. These are all my favorite tracks. Right? I go to albums. And which one was it here? This guy. Oh no, it's not even showing here. Interesting. Let's go to something different that I know for a fact. Yeah, some of the stuff is missing for some reason, and I don't know why. Like, what's the
licensing?
What's the reason for this?
On titles end.
It could be. I'm trying to find Eric Clapton. See, like he's here. But it doesn't exist on my on the BNO app. For some reason, it's grayed out. Like the song in the favorites. This is grayed out.
Yeah.
And you can hear it go to the album. So let's go back to the BNO app again. Sorry, I didn't think it's going to take this long to switch between the shit.
That's all right.
Okay,
Well, man, it's not like we're stuck on time or anything.
No. So here, let's do that. So yeah, here, as you can see, it still goes. You know, you gotta go, and you gotta go here. See the albums. I don't even think there is what do I even have in here? What is it? Not it's see, and what is it? I don't even know how. And there's nowhere to go and set this to, you know, by name or alphabetically up or down. There's no. Obviously, I can right click, but you can't. You can't scroll in any other way than this is laid out to you. Which to me, it's very counterintuitive. Because where is that now? Like now, your basic reference is more or less the album art, because that's the fastest you can, you know, you can tell the picture from text, at least for me. So I don't know. Like it's silly that this is the interface of it. They've improved it a little bit, but they also bombed a lot. They bombed a lot on it. So, but these work. So like I said, I've done one for the Atmos, one for Sofa Music, and one for Sofa, which is regular surround, and it makes a huge difference. Have you tried it, Stefan? To play
Listening
with the
position.
Atmos? Yes, to play with the Atmos versus the. So
Not
in the
yet.
Atmos, here I'll just cover that quickly since we're
I
here.
couldn't. I wasn't able to play with it because I couldn't get the app to work.
I guess, but now assuming that your tablet is charged and you have the Android operating, so you can.
Yeah,
You
it's true.
can-
I take a look.
You can do it here. So that's your 19 more or less. Your fronts, these would be more or less no function for you if you
Mhm.
do it in a surround, because you're gonna use left and right for your. But these are the important ones. Left up firing, right up firing is that's for the Atmos one, where you go with the left surround heights and backs on those speakers.
Okay. Okay.
And it
So
makes a
this
big difference, yeah. And then I also assigned, as far as the document was that I posted, if you assign you can leave the virtual speakers the way they are, even if you have front and back, left and right front speakers.
I was
But
going to
yeah,
ask you that. Since I have 4 speakers, I got the 418s. Do I need to use the virtuals?
these are more or less for the beamforming, you know, no friends, one share. So if you sit on the couch in a specific spot, like where we tuned it, like you can use these, but you know, like if you sit off to the side, who gives a fuck? You still will hear it, but this is the gravy spot, honestly. Like it does make a huge difference, especially the spatial awareness. How it all lays out in space. It does a really good job at it. But it's a big difference between this and regular Sofa, where this is just for regular surround listening. So 5.1 content that's what you would set it to. And then you just put, I have these as front height, and I've turned them off, but they work well. At least they bring the image of the vocals more centered to the screen, even though they're not recommended to be turned on. I left them on; they sound great, but I turned off all this virtual nonsense. And there is a difference in sound as far as the vocals and everything else for some weird reason.
So this is Android. So there's a top level selection for Atmos now. Is that what you're saying?
No. This is when I just created one for the Atmos movies.
Okay.
These would be for the regular 5.1. You know what I mean? And it does make a difference, yeah, because those channels are actually, you know, physically they're encoded. Where in this more or less scenario, it's making shit up. If you had, you know, in Atmos for 5.1 or 7.1, whatever. So that's the difference.
Atmos?
They do, right, Mikey? I know the Prime does. We watched the movie yesterday, and I was in Atmos, and it sounded great.
Yeah,
On this preset.
Netflix does as well. Like it's the Dolby Digital Plus, but with Atmos encoding. But with or without the Atmos encoding makes quite a big difference on how the soundstage is presented.
Yes. It does make a huge difference. sonically. It's weird.
I still don't fully understand why it's sort of recommended to manually switch, but
That's what I don't understand. Why this wasn't something that is automatically preset for certain contents, right? Like it would just make sense because like the receivers, like common receivers, do recognize what sources or what the source is and what content they're processing, right? Into whatever, however many speakers the system is connected to. So I don't understand why this and that wouldn't change automatically based on, because all these other ones don't really make any difference to the processing. Because kitchen, that's just like it's all out there, right? Everything's in stereo, and who cares? And table is like here, so the thing just turns all the way, and I have to be cautious that the window's open, or I mean closed all the way up. So, but that's the only difference, I guess. I tune it that way. But the ones that matter the most are the Atmos and the regular sofa or regular surround. That should be done automatically, in my opinion. So
Yeah, that would make sense.
it would, because if the TV knows when the Dolby Vision is on, right, when Filmmaker Mode kicks in and so on and so forth, I don't think that there's that much. I'm sure that there's some sort of a trigger or a code that comes in that this is what I'm, obviously, if it knows what the codec is. Because in the app under signal information, you see Dolby Atmos and the logos and all the shit yesterday. I was seeing that in watching, the heck was it? I forget the name of that movie. It was on the train with Brad Pitt.
Oh, Bullet
Train. Bullet Train, yeah, like a comedy. It's fucking funny. But acoustically, it was very well done, especially in the Atmos. Like it's a different presentation, obviously. And we switched. I was watching with my girlfriend. We're switching between and that the regular and Atmos, and yeah, you can hear the difference. It makes a lot of difference, actually. Not as much for her because she was off to the side, but when you sit in the sofa for the Atmos, it where I sit, usually it's an experience for sure.
But surely it's just a tweak to the true image that would solve this, right? Like, don't upmix voices into high channels if no Atmos is present.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, that's all it's doing, essentially, when the voices sound tinny when you have non-Atmos sources playing.
I never made another one sound preset, but it does make sense also to do another one for movie 5.1 and movie Atmos, where you can play around with these, and importantly the stage width. These still, for some reason, they do not have any function for me. As of the latest update, they kind of lost control of the control. So, but stage width does not appear to work, but it does impede quite a bit on if you go. This is a very high number where the vocals basically just mud out. It sounds like pentas when you go up to 8, 9. So I keep that at this level. If you don't save it, you can still play with it and just like if you want to watch a movie, you can just put it to like 4 or 5 and put the surround lower, blah blah blah. And if you just get back out, it will say no sound mode because it's playing modified movie sound mode, which wasn't saved, which kind of doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. And as soon as you go back into it and you create or reselect movie, it'll just change everything back to normal without saving it. So you can still do like an A to B, like a quick A to B between what you like and what you can or to gain, presuming that your app works. And sorry for the poke, brother, but I also had some suffering with the 50's on Monday, moving them around. And there are the speakers that actually were in the shop for a while. So I reset them factory because that's how you clear the filters, correct? And
no, you can delete them by swiping.
Well, that not on Android. I can't swipe shit. It's just it doesn't, not on the like in the app, because you got to go to configure app when you go to the Beolab 50's
in the
interface.
Configure app.
Oh, really? I'm gonna try that when I get to the shop tomorrow. But in any way, I reset the speakers, put them back, and this was before, because we had them either in between the 18s, which kind of looked way too, too crowded, or further apart from one another, as it is in the splash screen on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was just before I started plugging in them, because if you notice that everything's missing off of them, the size and so on, blah blah blah.
I know that
And
look well.
yeah, and I ran the tune, and for some reason, on the third time, the final one, right? It just jumped to the software update page. I'm like, what the fuck? And obviously, if you go back or press back, it'll just cancel the tuning, right? Because it'll just ask you, do you want to continue with the microphone tune or not? So I just like, yes, I do. And then it just goes back to the check-in software update. I'm like, oh, for the love of God, man. It's not like a big deal, but it's 15 minutes, right? That you wait there for the wood, right? 3 times from different microphone position.
Yeah, I've been there. It's not fun. It takes forever.
And it's not just that the speakers may trip out or whatever, the stupid software update thing. There's also, we're on Saint Denis Drive, right? Like there is very good chance of a fire truck going by with the sirens and shit, right? The cops, usual, right? Or a garbage truck with a lot of bass from the diesel engine because they stop. And so in between all that, I got them tuned. And yeah, it was a bit headachy that they just would not. I even turned off the auto update and then right back in. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Maybe it's the phone app, right? So tried it from the laptop, but I never got to the laptop. They finally finished the tuning and that was that. But they sound spectacular inside that space.
I got a question. Can you bypass the need to when you're setting up a theater to use the microphone? Can you bypass that?
Yes.
So, how do you bypass that in the Android app? I'm not able to.
Create manually. So this is Android. So if we go to, let's say, kitchen, create new.
Mm-hmm.
And here you go, create manually.
Uh-huh.
And this is where, like right now, that's where it's my stand show, so you can actually adjust it. And it does it in real time, obviously. It's a little lag on a podcast, but so then you go confirm, and then you put whichever speakers you would like to do whatever role you want them to have, and you put in the distances. So this is where I would suggest that this is a little bit more of a. I don't think it makes sense to me to do that. For one simple reason, I would just create a listening position. Create a new one with microphone, and if you don't want the bloody room compensation, then just go in and delete the room compensation. But it keeps all the distances in already in there, so you can have the speaker roles pre-assigned to whatever you want them, right? Or whatever the microphone does, right? And then you go all the way down here to room compensation, and you just go delete room compensation filter. And now everything sounds like what it sounds like out of the box, I guess, when it comes to the 18s and the 19 and the theater, without anything that it compensates acoustically for. So that's where you can do that. To me, that's better, because it saves you sitting around with the, like me would be sitting there with the laser gauge and going around and pinging each speaker how far they are. Which this thing is very accurate in doing that as far as the microphone is concerned. Very, very accurate. I did it from the fucking tip of the mic to the speaker, bro. It's down to 1 centimeter exact.
Yeah, in the older TVs, you only had 10 centimeter increments.
Yeah, no, it is very, very accurate measurements. So that's one thing. And then what I normally do now, I bought a dB meter. Little Amazon, whatever, $40-$50 if you want to get a good one. You can buy them for $20. Catch 22. I need it because in order for you to do anything with the speakers, you need the app. And if you just say play the noise and you get out of this app to go to the dB meter, the fucking noise stops. So you can't use it, right? You have to have 2 devices. So therefore I just carry a meter. and then I go and I recheck all the dBs on all the speaker drivers from that position where the microphone was. And usually the up firing and side firing need a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, they're quite gentle with that natively.
And yeah, just like, Jeff Martin was saying, that you basically started at either 65 or 70 dB. I find that you have to have some sort of a source actually selected, because then the noise works. It plays the noise, but the dBs are unaffected. If you slide them back and forth, there is no change.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be a source active inside the theater. If it's on standby and you start messing around with that, it will not change the loudness of the dBs. You have to go in and out of that page. I don't know why it does that, but you have to have it basically turned on, which kind of makes sense.
KCBR says, is a dB meter more precise than a phone with a dB app? Possibly, but it doesn't really matter because you need something to be relative to one another. So you're not.
And it's not just about that. It's about the fact that you can't do it simultaneously from one device.
Yeah.
Because the app doesn't allow you to do it. Say you have an iPad. Yes, you modify stuff as far as the sliders go from the app on the iPad. And then if you trust your phone to be more accurate with the dBs and whatever, and use the app at your phone to set it, right? But the way you set it is you go to the center channel first and you play noise, and then you take the Beo remote and you set it till the dB meter says 65 or 70, depends on how noisy your environment is. And that's your center. Then you don't touch the damn remote no more. You are at 75 dB or 70 dB. That's your baseline. And then you match all the other speakers to that dB level within the environment.
Yeah, and that's the relative measurement, right?
And that's the relative measurement, and that's how you get, I guess, the closest you can get, because the distances are only for timing for surround and all this beam forming craziness that comes in that gives you that immersive experience by basically screwing with your brain on psychoacoustic level.
What's the redirection level? Basic question.
Redirection level is how much bass do you want to have the speaker going into it. So mine are set to number or -1 because center doesn't really need as much as the left and right. But see, I have these set at -19. What is this? What is this preset? Sofa. And quite honestly, it's more than enough because I have the Lab 19 sitting right beside my head or behind my head. So there's more than enough bass that carries through. And by reducing the bass on the front load, I also divert the resonance that transfers through the panel, willing or not, into the chassis of the panel of the screen and rattles. And then it becomes audible and very much pissy-offy. Where if you have it mounted on the wall, you don't really hear much, especially if you have the theater not mounted on the wall, but like yourself, you have it on the table stand, where it doesn't transfer shit into the wall.
It's almost literally what it means. It's like, where do you want the bass redirected to?
Exactly. So this is where the panel starts to dance a little bit. That's why I had to take it all apart, and I padded it, patted it, and reduced the vibration. Now it's the dang on power bar or power box, the splitter in the back that decided to ring.
Is it safe to say then that the precision demanded in the speaker settings, the distance and the redirection level, this has much more to do with movie watching and the surround sound effect rather than
music?
Yeah. So music, it would be much simpler versus music only. Is that correct?
Not necessarily.
Yes and no, I would say. If you're just using, let's say, a pair of 18s with the 19 at the front as like your conventional stereo system, then you treat it as such. But let's say you start tying in, into quadraphonic, or you make the rear ones not just front, lefts, and rights, but stereo, and you let the true image decide, or if you want the center channel into it, and there's a lot more to it, right? And then, to me, it's, I guess, to each their own. But coming from a place of 90s myself, I would not have the theater interfere in that whatsoever. in a stereo music play, right? It's just, I would not, like, if it's a stereo imaging, the 90s do a phenomenal job. Even 50s do a phenomenal job in putting the presence where the theater doesn't really have a need to be at all. Movies are
but as soon
different,
as
but
you have
for
a
music,
subwoofer, you get the theater calculating things.
yes.
Because it's like, otherwise it's just left right, whatever you have, even if it's just 18s and you want stereo, right? Then like it doesn't need to do anything. But as soon as you have anything else, be it a subwoofer, a center channel, being a party mode where everything is on for full max,
Then you're going into true image.
Yeah.
Or you're going through the true image no matter what. Which, by the way, this sounds terrible on like direct mode. Like the true image does a lot to juicing up the sound, where direct mode is terrible and down mix is semi-terrible. But direct is, it used to be that direct was the choice, especially for the movies that had issues with the PCM encoding and so on. But true image is at least they fixed that perfect, in my opinion. Acoustically, it takes a lot of playing with. It's like, that's the only thing that I'm not used to, the I guess with B&O, if you compare it to the olden days where, you know, you set up the speakers on the wall and you put a couple measurements and so on and so forth, and you sit down and that's it. Where now you have way more control, which all of these controls essentially are all the way back from 19 Beosystem 4, because that's where that all came from, or V1 even. But they were buried deep enough that you didn't really piss with them. And if you did, that sucks, because you have to reset the source, you know, to factory, and then you can start from there. This, I don't know. I never play with it. I leave it at center. But some people like it, you know, a little bit more there, a little bit more there.
I use that all the time.
Yeah?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I have my settings, you know, depending on the type of tracks that I listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So ideally for me, if they could get everything else fixed, you could bind a track to a particular setting in the tone wheel. So you could just move your tone wheel to, okay, this track here is a little bright. You soften it up, you warm it up, save. And it would be an easy thing to do because every track has an ID, right? So
where would you store that metadata?
You could store it right on the guy's phone. It's just a text file. It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally write that.
That makes sense.
I'm a developer. I wrote code for years and years. I could literally write that in an afternoon. You know, it's quite simple. Song comes on. Each song has a unique ID. It has to.
Yes.
And then you just move your
based on that ID. Yeah, that's it. That's the coordinates you get on the Beosonic wheel.
So whenever you load that particular track, it will check to see in your personal settings whether or not you have a setting for that tone wheel setting. Because, you know, music is imperfect. So some tracks are too bright, some are not so bright, et cetera, and so forth. It would be fantastic. If it did that, it would be like...
That would be a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
But how many, like, then, you know, I guess you're also reaching the possibilities and limitations of how many sound modes could you actually create, right? Because some people would, you know, they would take it like a dog with a tennis ball and just, you know, 150. Like, is that reasonable? To go here and then just have 50 to scroll through?
No. It would be bound to the particular track. So the track would come on and the app would check to see what the setting was, what you set it.
Oh, I see. So you wouldn't even have that sound mode. You would just have a generic sound mode, and then based on the track's metadata, you just load up the X and Y positive, negative coordinates that the Beosonic actually saves like.
Yeah. So you don't have to reset it. That'd
be cool.
So you could tune your entire musical library according to your ear based on that tone wheel. And this would be very trivial. So whenever you load a track, I would just say, load track, what's the track ID? Check this person's settings. Did he personalize that particular track for a particular tone setting? If he did, load that tone setting. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually strongly contemplating on not just abandoning Deezer, quite honestly, but
you're gonna go to Tidal since it's now integrated.
It really smells like Tidal for me.
Why?
and this is clarity.
Is that much
I
better?
don't think well on the theater. I don't know. No offense to all the acousticians. I don't think it's noticeable to the point where it's definitely day and night clear on the 50s and 90s, especially the high res tracks. 24 bits, 192 tabarnak. Like that's a lot of data pushing through, way more than your FLAC, right? From a Deezer
Well,
hi-fi.
FLAC can be anything, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to me, it's like watching a 4K movie on a 1080p screen, right? You need a proper screen to display proper resolution. To me, it's also that you need a proper set of speakers to display proper sound resolution. Even though I understand now, and I get all buried on the freaking Discord for the power link's not digital and all that shit. So I don't know. To me, it always sounded great. I have to say, I do agree that having the 9000 back in the yesteryears connected through a coaxial cable from SPDIF into the 90s SPDIF sounded miles and miles better than it ever did from going the Masterlink DAC or DAC out of the 9000 to the Masterlink to the DAC of the NLML converter to the TV through the network, and then through the TV's DAC all the way to the 90s again. And yes, you could play it throughout the house, which was cool. But if you actually wanted to sit down and properly listen to your old school music in full resolution that it possibly was, purchasable at the time, that was the way to do it. And I guess the app worked with the volume as well. So it's not like I did they fix this? I haven't changed. I haven't checked on the 50s if the volume is back to fixed. The slider wouldn't work.
Well, it would crash the app or the speaker.
Oh boy. So I haven't got the whole media working, so I don't know if we can do that. Maybe it'll just find out. Oh yeah, you got your thing on. It's
I
all
just
red.
check every now and then, and I hope and pray, but no.
Oh look, it showed my available server, so that actually found it. Okay. So now a whole media server. What does that do? Let's see. Nothing on here. I really don't like that they push this, nonsense in there.
Can't you go to the little icon and turn it all off?
No, because here it just goes, you're signed in. That's all you get. That you're signed in. Good for you, buddy. You're signed in. You can't modify shit. That's it.
Wait, but that.
See, these are signed in. Click on that. Ta-da!
Wait, that used to have do you want the For You section?
I understand. Yeah, no, that's all gone now. Now you just have this fed right down your throat, like it or not. And then even they added more in the editorials, which wasn't a tab before. So now I have 4 more nonsensical tabs and all the recommended artists that, yes, cool. But I want to go to my music, so I always have to go to the stuff and then pick what would I like. If I want to go to love tracks, then I'm going to just get every 3rd, 4th one because it doesn't show for some awkward reason. And that's not just on, because it's the app altogether, I guess, right? So if we go home and go to the emerge and do the same thing.
Wait, so you don't have the personalization tab anymore, right?
No, that's all gonzo, bro. So let's go to love tracks and it'll show exactly the same not available. Like, what is that? We've both seen that whole albums in my app. Unavailable. Let's see. So I don't know what, they've improved a little bit, but did kill a lot. Another thing that I would like to have is being able to actually delete the Spotify account from when somebody connects to it, because my girlfriend connects to this every now and then, or to the theater. I came home, fucking music's playing, right? Because it stays on the account. I think it should be only Wi-Fi based, not if that phone leaves the Wi-Fi, that account should stop playing, in my opinion, not just be infinitely there. Because if I select this, it'll be it'll be her Spotify playing in the shower.
That's annoying.
That's a really big oversight, in my opinion. That should be addressed because a lot of people do use Spotify still.
Well, you would also think for something called Spotify Connect, it wouldn't act like that.
But there's nowhere to go to even like delete those dead souls, whatever you want to call it. Because if you go to Spotify, it just gives you this: go to Spotify for free or learn more. So you learn more, it just opens another tab window.
Spotify disconnect button.
It should be there, a Spotify disconnect, like purge the accounts that were connected to it, so people can just not randomly stream into you. Let's just turn this off because there's absolutely no data on my computer for this to see. But I do not like this. Like the flow, fuck it, whatever. It was there before. Not a big fan. It is what it is. This is absolute disaster for me because I don't like it. I'm sorry that I'm just self-centered about it, but to me, this is where that shit should have been. You know what I mean? In suggestion box, whatever. But not like, don't take all of my favorites and playlists and everything away. Put it in some goofy ass little tab that sometimes you click the settings and then like, shoot, gotta go back. This, right? The search is right beside it. It's really, this is nonsensical to me. Absolutely nonsensical.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was made by somebody that only looks at it on like a desktop, because it makes sort of sense if you operate this with a mouse. Also,
or I have that little pen, right? Because it highlights it gives you that underneath nonsense that
also
you don't
the scrolling
get
is not so bad when you use a mouse.
Yeah, it's not definitely. I don't know. I for me, what I don't understand is like Stefan's issue. How the fuck does that happen? Like that you are completely locked out. Like, is it the iOS problem, or is it something that is just corrupted on his account level to the point where it just doesn't go back in, right? Like, is it something that B&O can fix and reset from their end? Because to me, this is absolutely nonsensical. Like, I can understand if, you had, every time you load the emerge or something, the fucking thing crashes, but like to not be able to just completely go in is weird to me.
Well, what's interesting is that on the iPad, I had the same problem, but the iPad is able to get into the emerge. I'm able to get in, and I'm able to play music as I would normally. But if I shut down the app and reload the app in iPad, then I have to reinstall the emerge again. It's not a big deal. Whereas with the iPhone,
forget it.
Forget it. And theater on iPhone and iPad, forget it. I just tried while you were talking to bypass the microphone. It won't let me.
That's fucked up. But even though it's frustrating, they do look spectacular behind you.
Half the reason I bought it was photos. So.
They look great. That's one thing that you can, even though you're mad at it, you can't swap it for anything else. There's not much else around that doesn't look that sleek. Yeah,
well, B&O speakers in a Porsche Macan are also pretty good too. And as I think I mentioned to you, if I would have bought a 3-year-old Porsche Macan, I could have had my B&O speakers working and a Porsche Macan for the same money I spent on this setup here.
And it would start.
Of course, I would have to repair the Porsche Macan, which would.
A couple more subwoofers and speakers.
I have to say, I'm here. I came on to hopefully attract some more attention from B&O. I don't know, but I have to say, when they did that recent update, when I got back from Florida, the 18s are totally transformed with that recent turns of the tuning.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. It's like I often will just listen to the 18s, like without the need for the 19s or the theater. Well, the theater is driving them, but the sound is just incredible. So
I know they did something because I noticed the same when I first updated the theater. I actually had to redo my favorites to go from 50 to 40 because everything sounded much louder, much cleaner. I don't know what happened, but something happened.
And much warmer.
Yes.
Much less digital. So they're phenomenal speakers. Like, they were good, very good when I bought them, of course, but now it's like I listen to them standalone a lot. They have a lot of bass.
They do.
Even now. Yeah, so that's
I
good on
think
that.
with theater they do have a lot of bass for some reason, but on their own they never sounded the way they sounded. And I think also, like we had them set up in just like you did, Mikey, with a BeoConnect core,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a different sounding speaker compared to just having it set to the core on the same power link output. It's two different sounds. It's so much more dynamic and bassy and living and vivid and more lively through the Mozart platform than the older ones.
So the 18s as presented by the theater is similar to what the new core does as well. They sound the same.
I think it's better on the theater because if you do have the acoustic or the room compensation ran through, then the theater knows where that ability is non-existent on the BeoConnect core. They just run them as they were tuned from factory. There is no other additional help from the control unit. Where the theater you can, well, because it just wants to. But if you create something manual, then you just run them in stereo. They'll never know that they are, well, to them, they're just WiSA connected. They don't know what they are connected to. As far as like, the Mozart does about one another. Or speakers, at least.
Question. The 8s with the new core and the 18s with the new core, the 8s still have the sound?
Well, I don't, what the difference honestly is to me is in the look and a little bit of a bass response. The 8s do sound a bit more defined because of the true image and also Mozart tech that is built inside it with the self-tuning and so on. Where 18s are great, but they're also location dependent. If you have them placed nicely, like you have against the wall, they will sound great. But anywhere, like when you start putting them into the corners and it's on a core connect, then, you have to use the room compensation that you have, which is those 3 levels of switching freestanding wall and corner on the speaker itself. It's nowhere near as accurate as when you run the theater with the mic and it knows down to the freaking centimeter how far the speaker is and goes from there. So that's the answer to it. That if it depends on how you run them. So the mic, so the video of Steve's with the BeoCenter 9000C, BeoSystem 9000C. It looks sick. What were you gonna say? Sorry, Stefan, I cut you off. How?
I was just wondering what's most popular are the 18s or the 8s selling better nowadays?
8s are going more. They're more compact.
They're
like the install that I've done, it's easier to place and way more forgiving, dude. Like I honestly, the install that I did on Friday, I did the theater with the Lab 8s on the back and the Lab 19. And the only thing that I had to modify is the shave off a little triangle from each of the wall plates because they had recessed wall plugs, so you can plug in the speaker cable or to power. And that was it. And the bracket just fits perfectly on, man. They're so simple to deal with. So simple to deal with. The only thing you don't fuck around with is the grills. You need that peeler. That's the B&O's holy grail. And I saw that discussion on Discord on how to remove the grills. And I was asking my girl to watch the camera, or hold the camera today. So I'll do a little video on it just to show people how to properly do it, because everybody seems to have a problem every now and then ripping off one of those lamellas. Even
I've
though
never
the first
used
3
that
are
peeler
glued.
thing.
Yeah, the peeler is the 100% trust.
I've never ever used that. I've always just grabbed around the frame, around the wood.
Yeah, but you got like fucking huge lobster hands, bro. Like I'm not blessed that way, so I use a peeler. Shit, talking mushrooms. But yeah, I saw the video on this. I was snooping around already to see if there's like, the silver parts for the 9000. That'd be cool.
Well, the lamellas on the 28s are really nice, but one thing it does is essentially not make Wi-Fi work anymore.
Makes complete sense.
They're too much of a cage.
Makes complete sense. I never even thought of that. But yeah, that's yeah, aluminium would just kill it because all the antennas are on the sides,
Yeah.
where the wood was, and so on by the speakers and such. Hmm.
So this is at my Dutch dealer, obviously, because we were at the Mayfair store, but
Yes. How was that?
where it's positioned, it's awful for taking pictures because like the daylight comes straight at you, so you're like taking pictures into
Oh,
the
see,
light.
can't see
Anything
it.
that's dark looks way darker. It's very, very nice. It's look, would I pay for it this much? No, I think it's too much. But
Mhm.
does it deserve a premium? Absolutely. Like it's not like I'm saying this should be like 20 grand or something. Not at all. But I mean, in
No.
euro, it's 50 grand, which in Canadian is what, 65 probably or something like that. I think that's a bit much.
My question is like, if it would, I think it would be totally worth it if they redid all the insides inside them.
Yeah.
But did they or did they not? Because I
Well,
don't
they
know.
fixed the sled and whatnot, but it's not new. It's not updated in any sense.
Well, no, because there's just a little box that goes on the
Yeah.
back that makes it all work together.
I mean, in that sense, it made me appreciate the 4000C a lot more.
Why is that?
Because that's essentially new on the inside. It's totally revamped.
Yes. Yeah, but that also lost the data link too, so you can't really control it from the system anymore.
Sure, but like, regardless of,
I get
like,
the argument, though. I agree. It's completely redone. Let me just grab another pint.
like, and everything is new about it. So, look, I still think for a record player, 4000C is really fucking expensive. But
yeah, but they're reaching new heights with the 9000C.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that they could have gone like the slight extra weight to make the side panel in white LED instead of like, it's kind of weird when it's red.
That's what I'm saying, man. It should have been redone. But do you think that manufacturers of those particular antiquated displays are even available still? Or how much would the cost increase be of putting an OLED display, like, say something that is along the lines of the Bio Remote 1?
Well, you think you have enough margin with 50 grand asking.
I would think so.
Look, it's really nice, and the 9000C is done extremely well. I also noticed the Mayfair store had different CDs than these, because you get the sort of welcome package in that box with 6 CDs. And the Mayfair store had totally different CDs.
I like that they have Chronic 2001 in there. That is so classic, bro. That is gotta
Well,
be there.
I've been joking to you for like, what, 2 years now that you need
Yeah.
the 90s to hear the better S's on the bitch, please. Because that's a track on that album.
Dude, I had it on through the SPDIF. I remember listening to these things. It was fun. But yeah, discs or CDs are not dead, I don't think, yet completely. I like the fact that this came out because it did up the value of my 9000 that I have.
Yeah, doubled
Because
it
I have
overnight.
I have a Mark III and I have a brand new inbox, still sealed factory CD laser mechanism for it. So there's extra 5,000 hours of life on that thing after this laser dies. And it seems like a lot of time, but it's only a few years. If you listen to the CDs every day for 8 hours, it'll last you about 3.5 years.
I don't think anybody
4 years.
actually does that, especially with this. This
Not
is so
anymore.
much more of a statement piece than an actual music piece.
Yes.
And while I like it, I just think for like, the price is very steep, and I'm not sure how it's made up, because I'm pretty sure if you ask for slightly varying colors of these 28s, you could get them for what? Let's say you want to like the 15-ish grand euro. You can probably get them for 25 if you say I want black aluminium lamellas on some weird blue tone base.
Mm.
If you want to go the full bespoke, not or custom route, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably going to say it's 30 to 40, maybe 50% more, but like, so that means that you're what, at 25 for the speakers? Like, is this 25 for the 9,000 and the floor stand?
But you know what? I think the analogy that I would have to that is like buying like a collector's item Corvette or something, like a classic car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's worth fucking way more than what it used to be worth. And you pay that money because it's just more or less, it's either something that you wished for, you know, or somebody that is just a collector that they don't have a 9,000 and they wanted a 9,000 or had a 9,000. I don't know, lost it to some circumstance, whatever, and now they're in a position where they're going to buy it, and good for those people. You know, I would buy it if I had that money because I like the look.
Did they sell out yet? Or?
No,
I don't think so, not yet.
but I also don't think these are that limited. I mean, the one thing which I care almost more about than the price is that it can only be sold with Mozart speakers. So you're kind of missing the boat on upselling 50s or 90s with this.
But I think that's doable still. Like, let's say they would do a BeoConnect core to
if you ask them, they say no.
BeoConnect Encore. Well, that's silly in my opinion, because I guess that's just the statement piece as it's supposed to be. But what if you got the black 50s with the Mercedes grills or whatever? It would look almost the same. It would match perfectly.
Well, you can mix and match yourself, but not like in terms of a sale from this. Like, you'll just get the whole pack.
Mm.
Like with the 4000C and the 72, 22, and 23 and whatever the hell, you could swap in and out the 18s or 28s or 50s and all that stuff, right? But with this, it's just, I guess this or 8s, but they'd rather not do 8s, I don't think.
I'm surprised they were able to dig up 200 boxes, original boxes for the packaging, or they had it made, because it looks like it was the OG. Maybe the new cardboard, but the styrofoam. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, because the in-app control. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Steve, I'm correct on that. You could do a BeoConnect core on it and just hook up 50s to that through the power link, and you still would have the app interface because it's a USB-C input, right? Maybe they would need like a special software. I don't know if those 28s have a special software on them. I don't think so. Because now the 28s in this color variant are showing up on the app if you select colors in 28s. So I don't know.
People are looking at the remote. I'm pretty sure that's a silk one, and it just photographs white.
It's a silk remote, I think, with a B&O engraving on it or something different. Yeah, there's an Encore in the back, but if you put an Encore into the core, then you could run the 50s out of it. Because like I said, I don't believe there's a special software on those 28s to run that box. Yeah, exactly. So, nothing changes on the speakers.
I mean, I asked, but maybe it's then because it's bad communications all around. I don't know.
Wouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of it. The price not so much, but the look of it, yes, I do like the look.
I mean, the Mayfair store was otherwise really nice.
Did they have the full display?
Yeah, it's. I'm slightly curious at how they set things up. So one thing I almost liked the most in this room is this bloody couch.
Oh my god!
But this
looks like a blow-up couch, but it's leather.
Yeah.
That looks cool.
But Sandeep had the same. So went there with Sandeep and Steve. And the first
Nice.
thing we looked at, Jesus, that couch is nice.
Yeah, it
But
looks good.
this is downstairs, and downstairs is the sort of I didn't take more pictures of it, but downstairs. So you see the 50s, which are the rear speakers. Then you have
And 90s at the
90s up front, and
with
4
an 83.
Celestials on the ceiling,
Mm.
but with the harmony.
Okay, so they going old school still.
Yeah, but this room is like 4 by 6. So like from TV to you or back wall is like 4 and then 6 meters that way.
So you're saying it's an overkill? There's no such thing as overkill, bro.
They
That's
have a
just gonna
bigger
have to.
space upstairs.
But this just pounds as fuck, I'm sure. Like there is no
Sure,
tomorrow.
but they have a bigger space upstairs with just 90s, which makes
Okay.
no sense to me in terms of showing stuff off.
That's probably one of those silly B&O's requirements that if you have 90s in the front theater, you need to have 50s at the back because that's what they were wanted from us too. But it just doesn't make sense in our shop because then oh, you want the second best here? Turn around, Mr. Customer, and look at the rear speakers here. So no,
I mean,
it doesn't
I
work.
like this room a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's just like my living room is a lot larger than this. And
It looks like it would be a little acoustically bright, or do they have the curtains go across that glass panel?
if they wanted to, yeah.
Okay.
Can you have rear speakers about 2 meters away, or must they be as close as the 50s? You can have them whichever distance away you want. If anything, more
Within the
distance is
reason.
better.
I think in the B&O app, I think the max is 15 meters.
Yeah, but then from a center point perspective, you're talking like a room that's 30 meters. Right? Like that's... I mean, that's even hard to find in like Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, I know, that's a big ass room.
I mean, imagine if
But
like
that's again,
30
I guess
meters and then 30 meters. Like that's...
But to me, it makes sense because you can incorporate other speakers within your home environment to use them within, like let's say a theater, right? Like you can have a whole bunch of different speakers. You can have dining room speakers in there if the layout permits that. Okay, these are my surround backs,
Yeah.
per se. This pissed me off, by the way.
Yeah, for some reason they are making a different color level covers, which for a long time, and I think it was Chava that said he asked and he wanted to pay them and they just said no.
You know what's really peculiar on that one in particular, as far as the walnut goes? If you look at those 4 dots where the microphone light interfaces thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's the walnut is raised. It's machined around it as well, which is kind of interesting. But I really like the walnut. This is how I would keep my level. I really would like that in walnut.
Yeah, which so this is the not the ground level but the upstairs, which is I like the upstairs a bit more than downstairs because like when you walk into the store, like the first thing you see on the side is like the Ferrari Beosound 2, some H95s. And
Did you ask if they have that available as a grill for sale or no?
No. Surely they must have, right? If you put it in the showroom, because this wasn't like out and hidden or anything, or hidden anything.
Fair enough.
This was literally on a like one of those desks they have there, it's just standing proud.
Fuck, you could have texted me, bro. I would have been like, fucking PayPal you this shit right now and take it with you. Oh God.
But
how big was the shop? How many floors?
3.
2? 3? Holy shit.
Well, so downstairs is essentially just the sort of theater room. And
okay.
And they have a 7222 in the sort of hallway.
Okay.
Which is was it the brass or is it bronze? I always get them mixed up with the 4000C in brass, I think.
Yeah.
And as a combo, and then just the theater room, and that's it.
Hmm.
Then in the middle, they have some, well, at ground level where you walk in, you have that wall with like Beosound 2 Emerge, Ferrari Edition, some headphones. On the other side, they have balances and a sort of desk slash showroom cabinet thing. And further in the back, you have a theater with 28s and 8s, and behind that, it's a contour and stages.
Nice.
And then upstairs, you walk into like some 50's on the wall, some 18s on the wall, fairly nice size shape, a theater with 90s, and the sort of bespoke section. Because they have this glass deck with like, oh, these are all the materials for all the stuff we can do upstairs.
Okay. So like a little sample room type of thing.
Yeah. So, but anyway, like, so the 4000C, as you can pretty much tell, like everything has been touched, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know how much they would have done on a 9000.
I mean, this is also apparently available for the level, this cover.
What is that?
I think it's bamboo.
That's interesting. Hmm.
But I'm not entirely sure. But it's another cover I've never ever seen them make for the level.
No, I've never seen that.
So
Well, they only have 3 different levels, right? The gray melange, the gold one, and the lilac edition.
Yeah. But apparently,
By the way, there's different covers for the theater for the tops. I found on the Exploded View the other day. I posted it on the Discord.
So here was Sandeep showing that Steve needs to buy this for his home.
See, the 77-inch theater looks good with those big ass wings when it's on anthracite or in anthracite.
I mean, I don't think he convinced Steve, by the way.
Oh, that's funny.
But
no, that's a nice setup.
Yeah, so up here, right, with these 90s, it's much bigger, the space.
And what was the readers there? None?
Yeah, nothing. Unless the 28s on the walls were integrated, but I don't think they were.
No, it
because
should have
they
been
had
50s in the back there.
They had custom 28s with, you know, that differential shading they do sometimes? So it went from like pink to like blue. So you had like this purple hue in the middle.
Yeah.
With these sort of lilac covers. I'm not sure I took a picture of them, but they were quite interesting. They're not really for me, but on the other hand, they're also not that ugly. Also, I'm confused about them. Like, I sort of like them, but I wouldn't have them at home, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Anthracite Theater with 90s, it looks really bloody gorgeous. So this is,
These
by the
are
way,
like
the
the
same couch
default
as that
90s.
leather one that was downstairs.
Downstairs, yeah, that's the back of it. It's nice.
But this is the fabric one. It really is quite comfy. It's a bit low, but it's very nice. It's ridiculously expensive, but...
Oh, well,
is it
showroom.
Is it Roche Bobois, that couch?
I don't think they have that in there, do they? In Europe.
Let's see, it's a Taccini Ursula. And I think a 2-seater is like $9,000 or something like that. Pounds.
Pounds?
Yeah.
Okay. It looks very bulky though. Like, yes, it's comfortable and inviting, but to me, it's just for my taste, it's just too sausagey on the corners. You know what I'm saying? They're bound out like a little sausage. But
yeah,
anyways,
well,
got more pictures? Let's see more pictures.
No,
That's
not
it?
really. I mean, I did go back a second day, but like the press photography that they did a while ago, I think is better than my phone pictures. Because, like, I mean, in the end, I went to the UK for a funeral, right? So I wasn't gonna like do a bunch of like picture taking. And the press photography that was done before by others, like, shows it better, and because not much has changed since then.
Well, they don't really have much new in portfolio so far. Like, we have the Lab 8s, and that's basically in the BeoConnect core.
I mean,
And
it's
just different
it's
colors.
a nice shop. It's a bit, how would you say, it's a bit slightly cold in the
Okay.
sense that, like, beforehand you sort of made B&O shops feel a bit homely. Like, this is a modern home, or like this is like actually something our customers could have, or you'd have some Herman Miller in there or something like that. But like, this goes a bit of a, like, this is a fashion statement kind of shop. Like, down, well, where you on ground level, and I think even up here, like all the pipes or ducting for AC and stuff, it's all exposed.
Okay.
Which is a look, right? Like, and I don't mind it, but it's bright silver, so you're often
No, it's
just
loud.
Like, well, you don't hear it, but it's sort of like,
No, I know, but like visually, it's loud.
Yeah,
it takes your attention away. It's
so
too
you're
much.
like
Usually
weirdly
it's
staring
LED.
at the ceiling, going like, "What was the idea here?"
Interesting. But they must be doing good. Or is it a flagship store for London?
No, for the world.
Oh, for the world.
Yeah, it's the flagship store.
I thought it was the B&O in Herning still.
No, the London is now.
Okay, interesting. They just mowed the dude's lawn. But
Well,
he's a big store. Like, that was an interesting store.
Well, this is company owned, right?
Oh. Yeah, Herning was private. That was the biggest shop I've ever been to, man, and he had everything in there. Everything. It was a very nice experience.
So, I mean, it's a bit, I don't know what I full on should and shouldn't say, but I find this concept of company store versus franchisee a bit strange. So,
In what regard?
well, when Sandeep and Steve and I were there, right? Like, the shop manager was out for lunch or whatever, which is fine, right? But there were two other dudes there. They didn't have a care in the world for us, not even for a chat. So
interesting.
But I think also because they knew we weren't there for a sale, so it's sort of like, well, since you have no chance of buying it, we're not even going to build the relationship. Which is sort of,
yeah,
like,
that's a little sad.
I understand to a degree, but it's kind of like, wait, what? Like, you don't even want the possibility of me ever like coming back or doing anything? Like, even if you knew or didn't know who I was, right? Like,
yeah. I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I mean, and another thing, right? Like, and again, I don't mind so much, but like, they have like this massive ass coffee machine and cakes and stuff in the back. Not that I was particularly wanting cake or coffee, but there was no offer of that either.
It's like, these guys are two fucking broke tourists, man. Go take a picture of Ben and get the fuck back to America.
Yeah, but we were in there for we were probably in there for a good hour and a half.
Damn. Not even water?
No, nothing. They literally didn't speak to us.
Wow, that's shameful, in my opinion.
But I mean, I came back. What was it, Saturday with Billy, and the manager dude was there, and we actually had quite a long chat.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very different experience. And he wasn't even like going like, can I probe you? Like, how much money can I extort from you? It wasn't anything like that. It was more like, hey, how are you? How do you know the brand? That sort of thing. It was, and we had quite a long chat, and it was pleasant. But it was sort of, yeah, it's a bit odd. Another thing that's kind of weird with like the company-owned stores versus the franchises, right? So the guys in the company-owned stores cannot discount anything at all ever, unless it's decided by the company. So if you go to the nearest franchisee and say, can I get it for 5% less than the company store? Like 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes. Like if I buy it at you, like what's the difference otherwise, right? So like the franchisee has that sort of room to decide, like, I actually want you as a client or not, like something either way. So it was a bit... I don't understand that, because you would think that there's much more like leeway on the company-owned store sides. But if nothing else, it seems that the company-owned store is way more rigid. Like we wanted a certain way as a company selling it to the customer, and the customer sort of has to abide by it.
Well, I guess because they have a reason to exist, not survive. You know what I mean? They just there to exist because whatever, like the I guess the big company will, or the headquarters will carry whatever. Where individual dealers, like, you eat what you kill, so you kind of have to, turn up your give a shit meter to a higher standard in order to survive, because bad word travels farther and farther than the good one ever will. Right?
Yeah. Max says, I've had a very different experience. Was offered gin and tonic within 5 minutes going in. They talked to us through most everything in the store, maybe different staff. I don't know who the staff seemed the same on both days, other than like the manager guy was there and I think some other guy. But even so, it was like I think the current B&O training is on the current portfolio.
So they can't discuss anything in the past times.
Not really, no, unless they have their own passion about the brand. And it apparently when they opened, it was quite eye-opening when customers would come with like a 9000, like, hey, it doesn't work, can you fix it? And they were like, what is this?
Oh no, you can't even say that. What is this? That's
well, they did. if they're halfway decent, which I think they are, they didn't say it publicly, but that's what they're thinking, right?
Fuck.
So it's yeah.
Yeah, it depends where you go and what parts of the world you go and visit. I guess.
But the thing is,
the
company-owned store, when your company-owned store doesn't really know any of your products that still work. Like, I understand, right? Like, you're not going to go and teach these people the full-on collection from Jensen.
Yes.
But if you're not going to, like, have them not know what Beolab 5s are.
No, I completely agree. But at the same token, the way I see it is, like, you should be able to lead a conversation with whoever walks into the store, regardless of whatever the product is, in my opinion, especially in the brand like this, where things stay relevant for decades, if not some like the 9000 quarter century and up.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have the recognition. It's like, I understand that when you work with Sony or Yamaha or Denon or whatever the fuck, when they come up with 15 different amplifiers a week, right, or a month in whatever, but like P&O only comes out maybe 2-3 products a year, so it's not really that hard to trace and track. But I also think that it shows the devotion of the person that works there. Because if I were to talk to somebody that has zero clue, then for a fact that thing is a zero clue. Like, they don't even know how to handle the product to begin with. So I would never even leave it with them.
Yeah.
That's just, borderline.
B&O is fairly plug and play. But
nowadays is, I guess, to a point.
Unless you want to use the app.
That's it. That's it.
So
when the app goes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that everything should be app driven, and quite honestly, if anything, I think BNO should definitely contemplate on making, like I said, we've been begging for it for a long time, like an audio master, like something that Steve showed on one of the Thorsten Velour tours, where I don't think necessarily that the triangular screen would work and whatever, but it makes complete sense where it's a removable thing that sits on the ball, and you take the half ball that sits now on the desk, and you have your screen interface, and have something that is just built nothing but for the BNO interface, just something on a little more intelligent level than the Halo remote is per se, where you could and you're not tied into Android, and you're not tied into a bloody iOS operating system. It's just their own. I don't know if it's a Linux or whatever environment you would build this off of. I think that would just make sense to have something that put a freaking Mozart chip in it. I don't know what else you need to do. Just make it work the same way, and have something that people can go to, because the app is tricky, and it's tricky for I'm in the field, I see it a lot, where you take control of the account, everything shows up on mine, then you relinquish the controller and whatever session, and then the clients just get those gray icons, right? Like, it's just, okay, well, there's a product, what the fuck? Shut the app off, you restart it, and it comes back. Some of it comes, some of it doesn't, and this and that, and you have to restart the product in order to, like, it's not every experience is smooth, and from my perspective, that kind of an interface in the very beginning of an installation is very scary for clients, because it's like, well, fuck, if this guy can get this going, how am I supposed to be able to operate this, right, when you leave? So
there's another issue which came to my attention with regards to my recent problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the idea that my stereo system is basically subject to the whims of this company in Europe. Whereas they can just shut me down through an update, and there's nothing I can do. It's like everybody's worried about TikTok. Bang & Olufsen's is worse. They can shut you down. So there should be a way to lock it down, so they can't.
You don't have the need to go back to constantly ping the servers.
Yeah, because I had a fully functional system for like almost a year, and they decided to push something, and all of a sudden, boop, even with Mac OS and iOS and Windows, they give you that option, and so that's a cause for concern, because I wonder what's going to happen in 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, or right now. It just doesn't work for me on iOS. That's a problem, I think, personally. I don't know what you guys think.
I agree. I think there was a slight scare, like a year ago, 9 months ago on Discord, where like people started to figure out that if your app doesn't work, you can't really, if your internet is out, you can't access your Mozart speakers because the app like times out, and then that sort of thing, and and that's on the basis of like things unintentionally goes to shit, right? But what if they decide, we actually fucking hate you and we'll take the lawsuit? Your stuff is null and void. I mean, it's not a great thing.
Well, we're totally dependent and tethered to these guys.
Yeah.
Should be a sandbox, where.
Well, the only logic that I can see as far as the excuse that would be from their point would be that it can help with theft protection. So let's say your system gets stolen, they can shut it down remotely from somewhere else if the serial number gets reported, and so on and so forth, providing that they know what they're doing with the system.
I could see somebody running in, grabbing a pair of 90s. Let's get them out.
No, but like, emerges or balances, like stuff that you can run away with, that's it's not to defend them, but I'm just trying to find the Danish logic in it, right? Where this would be, I guess, it more or less equates to what the PIN codes used to be back in the day, which now is just more centralized to the mothership. So as soon as you plug it into the network, because eventually, no matter what you do, you're going to plug it into the network to get any use out of anything, right? Because we're a network-dependent species now. So
I can see that. But I'm still thinking
So-
there should be a sandbox. I should be able
No,
to.
I
check
completely
first.
agree with you. I'm not defending them at all. I'm just trying to find the logic, but I completely agree with you. I don't think that I think that I should be able to harvest all the functionality from the BNO, just having my closed-in network with my own NAS with all my music on it, and just be able to play it from the interface without ever being on having a need to go out on the internet to report to the mothership that, oh yes, I'm playing fucking Marvin Gaye Sexual Healings on my 90s now, and every 10 seconds update the state of it, because that's, I understand that that's, I guess, how the BeoLiving intelligence works, because it constantly reads the state updates from all the products, so it knows what's going on at all times. But that also obviously creates a lot of traffic, on the unnecessary traffic on the servers, or on your network, when you think about it. But no, I do agree with something that should be called like an offline mode per se, where it's independent. Yes, sorry, your BNO radio is not working. Obviously, when they cut the fucking water, your faucet ain't gonna flow either. So you understand that, but you still should have something within your own environment that you're able to access to, regardless if you have access to the main servers in Denmark or not. Because to me, that is scary, because only time will tell.
Well, we just saw, like, I can't use any of my speakers on my iOS devices.
Mhm.
It's unusable. The only reason I'm not screaming bloody murder is because I got Android, an old Android phone I was able to use.
Yeah.
I should be able to revert back, and I did everything. It's them. They pushed some bad update. That's all it is.
Something bugged out, because you even had your software updated and everything else. Like, you've had everything is up to date on your phone.
9 times out of
It's
10, the
just-
software update is the problem, which is also not great, right?
Yeah.
Like it just
on the Apple, well, the last software update that messed up completely.
regardless
the
of
CEC.
where it is, on the product or on the phone, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I'm not
Which
even
one is
talking
it?
beta. Like there's been so many weird things, even with 50s and 90s, where like, oh yeah, this preset that is there is just gone now. I mean, it still shows, but it doesn't do anything. Sorry, that was an update. Like, what the hell, man? Like, you had that with installing the 50s, right? Like, auto update off. Well, it's just a suggestion. Well, we're going to check for it anyway.
It just still goes into it, and it's like, what the hell? And then I figured out that, yeah, you have to go back out to the white page of the BNO and then hit configure again, and it comes back to the tuning page without the update screen again, so you can actually finish the process. But that was very, that's like, come on, man, on the third try. So yes,
And
there
there-
are hiccups.
And their tech support, they're running through checklist, and I had sent them everything I'd done, and then they send me back emails with checklists suggesting things that I already told them that I already did. So it's like, hey, dude.
So nobody even reads that, more or less, when you write them. That's, to me, that's the example of that.
So
Which
I've had
it's
the
been
same
2 weeks,
experience.
right? 2-3
Hmm?
weeks.
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a while that this has been going on with you. Yeah, you might even convert to Android over time. Fuck, you never know.
I was thinking of getting an Android tablet. They're on sale now, just so I can run the speakers.
God, it's
I
The
would
battery on my
honestly
Pixel
say maybe try some of the Beo deities on Discord.
What's that?
Maybe I'll check that out. Yeah.
Like the people that actually work at B&O.
Mm.
Because we have at least 3 or 4 people that actually work at B&O on our Discord. Like B&O proper in HQ, right? And they have way more direct access to like their servers. Like I've had my app reset on their side of things.
Yeah, I remember that.
It didn't do anything, right? But it was just in case and tried.
Oh, for your picture?
No, for my Deezer, because it stopped working.
Oh,
Like I
That's
could not
interesting.
log in for some reason. And then I managed, what was it, on like the 15th try to log in, but it also loaded the previous account.
That's interesting. Sometimes I have issues with that when I take over people's accounts, that it loads theirs, but usually it loads mine for whatever reason. It shouldn't load my account, because if I'm connected on your account and you're on account control and you have Deezer account, it should show
In
all of your
Deezer,
stuff.
you have a tab of connected products where it'll say what your account has ever been connected to, and the harmonies, like, was it the EV200 or EZ200 or something like that? So it's
Okay.
very quite cryptic. But essentially, your Deezer connection will always be connected to whatever you connect it to. It's just you may not be able to log in, but it will have the credentials waiting there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you log into your Deezer account, you can delete that. Which is
I'm gonna try and log into the title as well and see how easy, if there is any pain between coming back from one account to the other within the app if you want to listen to music.
Because when I logged in, I found the A9 I had for testing. I found the balance. I found the emerge ad for testing. Like,
oh, really? It goes that far back?
Oh, it went back to the, was it Mark II A9 I once had for like a week.
You know, now that you tell me that, you know, this problem happened after I lent my friend the A1s, and he tried to install them on his iPhone, and you could never get the second one to load. And I don't know if it's coincidence, but I can't see why taking a Bluetooth speaker from my account and putting on another guy's account, would that cause the whole iOS app to fall apart?
I don't think. Well, it shouldn't. Did you remove them from your account?
No.
You didn't remove them from your account? You should have.
Yeah, it's what I was told afterwards. But, you know, I had a pair of, what it was, a Beolab 20s, and I sold them, and I never removed them. But when one day they just disappeared because I assumed that he put them on his account. But that's a fragile system if I had to remove Anyway, I lent him this guy his A1s, and all my problems started happening. I'm not saying it's because of that, but because it's a Bluetooth speaker. But now that you tell me they keep track of everything you've done since the beginning of time, maybe that caused a problem.
Yeah, because
was that on the Deezer side? Where was that? What app was that in that you said that it keeps track of? Deezer, or is it the B&O app?
This was Deezer, but
okay.
It was tied to the B&O app, because like my normal Deezer app didn't have this problem. It's just the B&O app.
Interesting.
Like, it's fixed now, but like, God, this took like 3 days of digging. Like, what shit have I ever connected to? Must I delete?
Yeah, I asked my friend to remove the A1s from his account. If B&O is listening, he was going to buy some speakers off of B&O, but after he saw this, he's thinking 2-3 times now.
Well, I don't know. I'm not surprised, because that's not the best sale, right?
Because he's a high net worth individual, and you don't want hassles like this, right? It's like
no, you don't.
You know, he's so busy, and he just and it's the money is really a non-issue for him, but the issue for him is am I going to buy it myself? Yeah, I don't have time to F around. He doesn't have time. It's like the last thing he wants. He wants to be able to listen to his music.
I just want to come home, turn it on, and it should work.
Yeah. So he saw this, and he's like, I don't blame him, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there is something to say for, like, it's not the usual, because, like, Willie and I don't have this, but Willie and I have our own unique problems, which is also weird, right? Like, it should be fairly uniform, one would think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this would suggest to me, being a software developer, that they've had a lot of turnover in terms of their developer staff.
Yes.
And I think new guys come in, the code, every time you get new people coming in to write code,
they have their own idea of how to make it better.
And they don't know exactly what the people were doing if they didn't write the code cleanly or document it properly. And then you get these problems. And the fact things are breaking here and this is not here and working, that tells me we got a very messy code base.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just speculating here, but it seems that way.
Wouldn't be surprised. I think you're right.
Well, if the staff retention is very low, then yeah, it makes complete sense because, you know, it's the principle of everybody comes there. I'm gonna here to save this project or make it better. So they're gonna everybody puts their 2 pennies, you know.
Well, I mean, was it
and it's a mess.
2-3 weeks ago, something like that? I think they fired like 100 people. It kind of went
Well,
under
yeah,
the
it was
radar, and
the Maydays, as
yeah,
they call them, which is, you know, trimming off the fat per se
it was
before
already,
the year
like,
end.
it was already under 1,000 people. It was like 980 or something like that, I think. So that's a 10% of the company gone when it's like 100 people, right?
Yeah.
It's a relatively small company.
Yeah, it used to be bigger.
But I think the problem is that there's more chiefs than Indians in the whole mix, and I don't know what the European analogy for that is, but there you go. It's just there's not enough being produced and too much over control and too much. I'm certain that the amount of croissants and coffee that gets wasted over these pointless meetings is in thousands of dollars a month. It should be just not there. And guys, like, you know, there should be people like pay them better, because at the end of the day, the app is the B&O remote of everything. It's more than the B&O remote, because that's, you know, that is the only interface other than when you're dusting the product with the product that you have. Because you don't touch your fucking speakers, you don't touch your theater, you don't go to the my buttons. I don't personally do it either. You know, I wipe the dust off it, whatever, wipe the dust off the screen. But 90% of the interface is either through the remote control. But if I'm going into the music app of it, then it's a headache, because now some of my music is missing, and, you know, blah blah blah, this and that. Do I have to go and research all the albums again just to see if they're, for some reason now there's 2 copies that I have, the one shows and one doesn't. It's a little too much, and I think it's a mess. Like you're saying, Stefan, it's a mess with the app. It's and this is coming from somebody that is a end consumer. This is not like, you know, somebody we paid to do the podcast. This is just the level of frustration that we need to get this out.
Again, B&O doesn't pay me like you're, I guess, technically paid, Willie, because you render services, but that's a fair exchange, right? Like Stefan, I don't think you work with B&O in any capacity, so it's not like these opinions are paid or otherwise. Like,
no, this is an end user experience.
I mean, I must say we should differentiate between the beta app and the normal app, but the normal app, because there's so many betas, is also kind of
not
stable.
Weird.
Well, it's I started writing professionally coding in 1990s, and so again, looking from the outside, being I was listening, I would suggest that I don't know what's going on, but I would have an audit on the system, find out what's going on, because I've noticed anecdotally that things just randomly break all over the place.
Mm.
Now you have problems with software. All software has problems, but there's an architectural issue here where, with, when you have a system that just no longer works completely, it's cause for concern. So it has, that has to be looked at. This is me being frustrated with this.
So what would be the fix that you would suggest? Like, let's say you started with the B&O tomorrow and say, Stefan, fucking fix this shit, bro.
Well, first thing I would audit. I would go into the code base with the lead developer, lead developers, or whatever, and I would just see what's going on with that. And you can tell, anybody with any experience will look at the code, will tell right away, look at the architecture if it's a mess or not. It happens. It's in all fairness to B&O, when you have mature apps, they over time, it's the nature of things, they become messier and messier and messier. That's why iOS, for example, after 9, they ditched that code base and they went from scratch. And Steve Jobs made that hard choice to say, we got to go from scratch because the old code base is just a bloody mess. I had to develop my own app. I have an application, a SaaS product that schools use. And after version I think it was 4, I had to basically start from scratch. And it was and I brought in the new guys, who got them very familiar with the code base at the time. We audited, understood what the problems were, what the bottlenecks, and then we re-architected accordingly. And we have a much more stable code base. So I don't know what's going on. I would have to see what the code actually looks like and whether it. So before I can make a decision in that regard. But again, it's cause for concern when a client such as myself can't even use the product other than hacking by using another platform, Android. And, the Android app is good. It's a totally different code base from the iOS app, different code. So that's my suggestion from a person looking from.
So, help me understand that. I guess the app instability is inevitable based on its generational upgrades throughout the iOS and operating systems that come through time as well, where there's going to be a point where you hit the wall where, let's say we're on Windows 15 and you just have to redo that thing from scratch because,
well, that's why
all the
Windows
welds
is fairly
don't
shit
hold the
now,
rest
right?
together
It still
anymore.
has to be compatible with MS-DOS and shit like that.
That's right. And I think that, you get to the point where no welds hold anything anymore, and you have to start from scratch.
Well, it's all welds, there's no material.
That's exactly it. And I think that's, given the age of the BNO app, because they have been through a lot of renditions, and, the BNO app has been around for, 12, 13 years, if I remember correctly. It started with the BeoVision 11s, BeoVision or BeoPlay V1s. So, and there's been 5 apps, and they basically amalgamated into one, which is now what we have. But it also, I think, it may be time where there's just too many band-aids over top of old band-aids and you don't even see the skin no more. And I think it's maybe time to, like you're saying, Stefan, just to do an audit on it and redesign whatever needs to be redesigned, because I don't mind the look of it, but the instability is atrocious.
Well, again, this is all speculation, having not looked at the code base. I don't know what's going on, but these are telltale indicators of that. And, it's easy for us to say it's a big job. It's a big job.
A big job, but then again, if you think about it, it's either that big job or the negative user experience, and you're at the very extreme of that negative experience where nothing fucking works. Like that's not cool by any measure and means.
Turns into a fucking ad.
Yeah, and that's it. That's all you can do. That's not the proper experience to be had. And I guess the famous Danish word or infamous Danish word, the workaround, is for you to just dig up an old Android platform. What if you didn't have one? You have to go now buy an Android just to experiment on it. What if that didn't work either? Now you're, let's say $400 and more pissed. So
that's one thing with my Deezer thing. I was fairly certain of, right? Like my phone is an old phone now. It's an iPhone 11, so it's like almost 5 years old. And I was pretty certain that all my problems would go away if I bought a new phone. Which is like...
And they don't.
Well, I didn't feel like it. It's like... I mean, yes, I will need a new phone in like a year or so because my battery life is atrocious. But like, I keep my phones for 5 years, but that's probably also why I have weird issues. Because, like, also on the phone side of things, right? Like, you just copy, like, and you're just pasting over the same sort of app over and over and over again.
I have a question. Do you know if they pushed the iPad OS update at the same time as they did the iOS update, the iPhone? Or do you know if it was at the same time?
I have no idea.
The reason I asked that is because it's screwed up on both my iPad and my iPhone. So I don't know if they're same code base or different code base. I'm not an iOS developer, but I think there's iPad OS and maybe they share. But it's not coincidental that they both broke at the same time. And my friend, by the way, who tried to get the A1s working, he could only get one installed. He had the same behavior on his iOS. So maybe there's something in the iOS world, something to do with my account. I don't know.
But there is a workaround for the A1s actually to pair them even without the app. where you hold the Bluetooth for 10 seconds and the first one starts blinking white. You do the same thing on the second one, and they will blink white together. Then they synchronize the blink and they harmonize. And then the speaker that you push music to is always the left side.
Do you have an old image of your iPhone somewhere? Like, could you re-upload it and see if that fixes it?
No, because when the problem occurred and I didn't have the latest version of iOS, and then one of the things I tried was to update the latest iOS, and I completely uninstalled the Beonow app. So maybe it's something to do with, so maybe given what you just said about how they keep all kinds of information about your own account, maybe that caused a problem. I don't know, maybe, but that's very brittle. Somebody installs a Bluetooth speaker that you had, and then it just screws up your entire,
experience.
Your experience. That's incredibly brittle. But again, I don't know. Here I am. I'm going to go get a Lenovo pad on sale for $200 so I can actually use my speakers.
Fuck.
Not that I ever use Android OS, but because my
wall mounted, have a little wall mount interface.
It's quite nice, but the problem is my Pixel battery is very, very old. It's like a 5-6 computer, so it's like it runs out of juice. You just have to have it
plugged in more or less to even use it.
That's partially why I'm gonna buy a new phone. Is partially the newer phones are way lighter than like my 11, right? Like I'm actually I've been home more for like a week now, and it's like, oh, my pinky of just holding it fucking up is like actually like I need to like do that a little bit. And my sister had the 13, 14, something like that, the regular one. And it's like holding it, it's like, wow, this is like so much lighter. It's like 200 grams less. Well, no, it's like 50 grams less or something. It's like, this is amazing. And secondly, like, I don't like the idea of handing over my phone to a repair center that then can just clone the entire memory to fix the battery. Like, that's a security issue to me.
It is. That's
How often that happens, do you think?
Oh, I bet you, especially at those shabby shops, all the time.
No.
Like, I bet you Apple does it too, but Apple doesn't really need to if you use iCloud anyway. They already have your data.
Fair enough, yeah, because it all re-downloads in a matter of hours after.
Yeah, if I was B&O, I would, I don't know, maybe hire some hotshot consultant, for iOS and just do it. Just do it.
Preferably one that lives in Canada.
I'm semi-retired, but if they wanted to throw some money at me, I would consider it just to get my speakers more working.
It's a good motivation to have, you know what I mean? You're not doing just for the money. I want my own speakers to work. How sad.
Yeah, but besides that, again, I think the setup I got now with the new tuning, with the 18s, the 19s, and the theaters, the best sounding system I ever heard, except for maybe Mickey's 50's. It's unbelievable how good it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fantastic. And people, when they see it, they're beautiful pieces of art. So they got a lot going for them. They just got to solve the software issue. That's all.
Yeah.
Sonos can make their software work, right? And
no.
I just recently looked at that, and they're burning all their goodwill to the ground, apparently, as well.
Yeah, Sonos fucked up the app, man, hard. Like they went to somebody graduated from University of how to not do things, and they solid fucked it. I've had nothing but issues now with people and Sonos just dropping like flies. And why wouldn't you not do that before the Formula Week, where most of the restaurants that we have are on Sonos, because it's the cheapest, most viable solution, right? To run your speakers and amps and whatever, because you're not running in a disco mode. But if this thing now all of a sudden it's incompatible, everything's incompatible, and you have a full restaurant. There's a few here I won't name in the city, that fell for that just fell victim to that Sonos never-ending wisdom and updates.
So I'll take that.
Yeah, no, I think what they have tried and attempted to do is combine the S1 and the S2 apps together, and it was rather bad, very bad. It was very bad. Sonos had they were going good, but not as of last few weeks. Also, I don't know if it's correlated to a certain something, but or lunar eclipse or the way the sun aligned.
Yeah, it seems like everybody together decided like, oh, our apps can be shit now. Like, it's fine.
It's hard to find good developers, by the way, right? Development is, it's hard to find really good developers, and young people get into development. I was there. I remember you want to use new stuff all the time. You want to do new stuff, and they're incentivized by complexity. And so you gotta whip them. Keep it simple. So that could be it. I don't know. It's not there, but I'm not there. So, but.
It's all the talent, everything. I guess it's the same thing. Like in the field of even my expertise, it's very, very hard to find people that are reliable enough to be installing this equipment.
Yeah.
And for you as a client, feel comfortable having these people, because when you have somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and they're doing shit in your house, you're just like, oh Christ on the cross, what the fuck did this?
I mean, one thing I absolutely wish for B&O to do, and I sort of wish this in like a slightly mean way, but also in like betterment for the future, like make some bloody budget available that whomever is writing this code gets to live with it. Like make them sign an NDA that, like, I don't know, give them a chassis of a 50 without the aluminium if that's too expensive, but like functional speakers or like theater or whatever, right? Like make like 50 extra for all the coders and like make them get rid of their old TVs and or setups. Like, because if you fuck up the code, like you and your wife at home also can't like watch TV or whatever.
Oh, and when she can watch, it's even a bigger issue.
Yeah, because so that's like
fixing that in the garage.
Because if you're the developer, right, and like if you mess up this way and it doesn't actually affect you, like you have no real impetus to fix it anytime soon.
Yeah, there's no drive to do it properly. But yeah, I completely agree. I think honestly that the developers should live with a theater, either a level or an emerge. Emerge is the cheapest solution, I think. But at least have 2 or 3 products. 3 products would be the best. Have a theater with 2 emerges, just like Stefan have, outside of the speakers and such, right? Because then you can have replicating all the most common issues, which is stereo pairing nonsense between the Mozart platform speakers, and also the instability that comes inherently with some operational procedure or behaviors with theater that happens every now and then, and occasionally, especially going from let's say YouTube to Deezer, it sometimes reboots.
Yeah. But it gotten better with the Emerge software, right? When I first got them, and they had a hard time pairing. The pairs they always drop off, and now it's been rock solid, except for the iOS app. It's so I think the Emerges are pretty cool.
They got it figured out, but yes, it also depends on how much noise you have around you when it comes to Wi-Fi's and so on and so forth. If it's on wireless, and there is always that chance that it might not work properly or does. But to me, I guess the biggest problem with that is more or less, I guess goes back to the coding and software updates per se. Why not have the software update pushed to the secondary speaker first and then to the primary, so then they both reboot and they both have the same version, versus the primary updates and secondary falls off, and now you have to reset the secondary speaker in order to even get it, because you got to get back in on the Wi-Fi and blah blah blah. It's just that there's such a disconnect in logic or operational logic in some of these things that it's baffling to me. And it's almost a true proof that they don't live with these products. They just don't, because you couldn't possibly be agreeing with yourself if you had this going on in your house when your emerges are falling apart. Are you not going to go on a Monday morning to work like, guys, this is not right, man? You know what I mean? Like, we just got a software update and now I got to reset half my system because this thing goes off of that, and it's just nothing's talking now. And like, how are you expecting to do somebody in there? We have clients that are 60, 70 years old that buy this stuff. not everybody's tech savvy. We have doctors that are younger than me that like, I don't have time. Like, you know what? Yes, you're a fucking neurosurgeon. You spend all your time on research on how to fix people's brain, basically, or nerves and whatever. You don't have time to piss around behind theater and seeing why does it vibrate, or why is my speaker groups are going all messed up or whatever. Like, that's, you paid somebody in offset of whatever the cost it is to you. It's nothing for what you make. Just have somebody to figure that out.
Personally, also, it's a small enough company that you don't have to have meetings about meetings to have meetings about meetings, right?
That's what I'm saying. No, they should.
Because that's another thing I sort of found out in the Flagship store, is that they have a lot of meetings about meetings to have a meeting about a meeting. And then it's sort of like, still very often the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
Yes.
And I think what was it? Like, this is probably the least bad example. And sorry, Steve, if I'm not supposed to say this, but like, Steve was supposed to do something to film there with them, right? And then that was approved. And then later on, somebody else said, no, it's not actually. Which is like, this is retarded. This is just so stupid.
It's very common though in corporations. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I understand if it's like Apple, Google, something with like 5,000 plus people, right? But we're talking now about like 800 people, of the majority of which aren't the managers and or approvers of things.
Well, famously, Steve Jobs, when he came back to Apple, he isolated his development team, his product development team, from the rest of the organization. They only answered to him because he knew that if they were integrated within the core of Apple, that they would never get anything done because there would be too many committees involved in decision making. Mm-hmm. So, it's perhaps that's what's happening with I don't know. But now, hopefully, they watch this and with respect, they will take a look at these issues, because I don't want to have to F around with my software either. I just want to play music. I didn't spend tens of thousands of dollars so I can be tech support. You know what I mean? What is this?
Weekend code writer. It does not make sense.
I mean, if you look at the board and stuff, it's not like the board itself gets paid quite decently. And I make the joke to Sandeep, right? Like, I have a feeling that like the general person in B&O wants actually the best for it, but is paid mediocrely. And then you have these higher end board people that will tell their friends, like, I work for a company that makes like 500 million a year, and they don't mention it's Danish kroner.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, right? Like, it's a weird sort of arrogance, and I don't know where to stop it.
Well, what are you gonna?
Let's stop it here.
I mean, by the way, if you're in London, please go to the London store. It's a very nice store. I don't think it's a store concept that's going to come anywhere else. But if you want to see that sort of thing, it's worth your while. But other than that, thank you for
Thanks,
watching.
Stefan, for joining, man. Much appreciated.
It was fun. No, I appreciate it.
I hope the complaints will be heard, and I'm certain that they'll figure something out for you.
And come up to Florida if they don't fix it.
That's it.
I don't need that to encourage me to move down.
Maybe it's the Montreal's internet.
And
maybe moving down, it'll start to work all of a sudden. Who knows?
That's it. You never know. Well, thanks.